what has gone on and what has taken place. And as I said before, when they picked on me, they picked on the right person in order to try to get it right. The next person that you would hear from is Marilyn Hedrick.
My name is Marilyn Hedrick, and I'm retired from a career in human resource management. For over 30 years, I designed, implemented, and managed systems that ensured fairness, accuracy, and due process, the same principles on which election procedures are based. So when I was invited to join this team, I felt I could be of service. Frankly, I expected we'd go in there, learn the results, go home. But that's not what happened. Instead, I was horrified to find deliberate disregard for the integrity of our electoral system. Deliberate actions that hid materials from our review, making it impossible for us to confirm results. No semblance of security and chain of custody for election materials and equipment. A mockery of our right to vote, a right which many have given their lives in my lifetime here in Mississippi. But I'm a woman of faith, and I pray that exposing this travesty will help return Hinds County elections to the principles of fairness, accuracy, and due process.
Amen. Okay, thank you, Ms. Marilyn. And the next person you would hear from is Taylor Turcotte.
Hi, I'm Taylor Turcotte. I'm a resident of District 2. David Archie was my supervisor, and I voted for him in both elections. I also led the 2022 ballot box inspection for Brian Flowers and Benny Thompson, and then I assisted with David Archie's ballot box inspection. Now, the one thing that I found in common between the two ballot box inspection was a complete loss of chain of custody. In my ballot box inspection, immediately upon entering the courthouse behind me and going downstairs, I found ballot boxes that were not sealed in the downstairs hallway. I have video of that I will actually put on my Facebook page. My name's Taylor Turcotte, that's 2 T's and an E. But we also found boxes in David's election that had not been sealed, along with many other laws broken. Chain of custody is so important because it's all about securing the election. If chain of custody is broken, that means that ballot box is unsealed from the precinct to the courthouse. Why is that important to an everyday voter? Because that means basically that your ballot can be thrown away. It can be disposed of between the precinct and the courthouse. So we need to be very sure in elections going forward that we have the procedures, that we don't have to worry about ballots being thrown away. So I'm going to turn this back over for them to talk about the other laws and other issues with the ballot box inspection.
Thank you, Taylor, and thank you, Marilyn. One of the things that I want to remind the public of, because sometimes we seem to forget some stuff, there was an election that took place a few years ago. Councilman Kenneth I. Stokes, he was running for Hinds County Board of Supervisors. It's my understanding that Councilman Stokes went to bed winning that election, and the very next morning he had lost the election. And nobody knows what took place or what happened. I don't know whether or not they did a ballot box examination or a ballot box review, but that has occurred here in Hinds County on several occasions, and we want to put an end to it. We want to put a stop to it. The other thing I want to say, there's a supervisor that is sitting now in Hinds County District 3. Her name is Deborah Dixon. And on the day after the election, she had her team down here the whole time that anybody was messing around with ballots. And she explained to me that she saw some of the Democratic Party people walk in with thumb drives, walk in the door with ballots, and nobody could see who or what those ballots was for. We don't know whether or not they put them into the machines, because at that moment that we go to review those ballots, they tell us to step back, or perhaps they call the police on you or call one of the deputies on you. But at the end of the day, it ought to be an open election where everybody can see every ballot that goes into that machine, and that your ballot can be counted. We know that we have problems. We have investigated this matter. And the young lady that I'm about to bring forward, and then we'll have one other speaker, and then you can ask as many questions as you like, Miss Cynthia Walker.
Good afternoon. I'm Cynthia Johnson Walker, and I stand before you because I served as the lead to the ballot box examination for Mr. Archie. I stand here with mixed emotions because I'm almost approaching nearly 50 ballot box examinations. And by far, Hinds County leads with by far the worst I've ever seen. Such a disregard for something that's sacred. Each of us have at home a safe box or a vault. We all put our precious things in those safe boxes, such as it is with elections. So, no disrespect. I want us to inhale, then I want us to exhale. I want us to blow the smoke out of this conversation. It's either right or it's wrong.
That's right.
So let's blow the smoke out of it. I also want you all to understand it's impossible for 26 poll managers and poll workers to have broken this system in this instance. This is not an attack on poll managers. It's not an attack on poll workers. I thank you for doing your civil duty. It requires much of you to be a poll manager. But what I will do as my granny would say, if the shoe fits, then you wear the shoe. This process lies solely upon the Democratic Executive Committee and Hinds County Circuit Clerk Zach Wallace. The election statute tells us clear that when those poll managers send this precious, sacred vote material, election material, to the courthouse, it falls within the scope. It's their business to handle those ballots with respect, with regard. They must follow what the law says for them to do. This is not a Burger King have it your way instance. The law specifies that every vote, every ballot ought to be accounted for. So what happened? What happened? On our review, 26 boxes, that's the entire district, was compromised. There was nothing, and there are components put in place to verify, to confirm, to acknowledge the vote. None of those items were sent for the examination. So what does that equate to? intentional, purposely, premeditated,
Delicious, right?
malicious, ill will. And all of that equates to breaking of the law. And so, Scripture tells us clear, this race is not won by the swift. But that same Scripture ends with, but by chance and by time. It's now time for them to be held accountable because they took that chance to mishandle these things that they were entrusted to do. So I want you guys to know, we're not huffing, we're not huffing and puffing. We don't even take hostages.
Just tell the truth.
I just think that every person involved with the throwing away of documents ought to be held accountable. I don't think anybody needs to get off. It's more than David Archie getting a new election. He's deserving of that. But these folks broke the law. And when you break the law and I break the law, we go to jail.
Amen.
So we're pushing to make them stand and be held accountable. So people entrust their vote. And so with that being said, I thank you all, and I'm always the one that's going to say they need to go to jail. Thank you.
All right, that's Ms. Walker. Ms. Cynthia Johnson Walker, in her own words. We got one last speaker, and we'll be bringing him up. Kim, make your way on down. Let me just tell you what Ms. Walker just spoke of. Gross misconduct, irregularities that took place in the certification process. Voting people that are preparing you and the public to come in and exercise their right to vote, there is a process that they must follow. And they did not follow that process in Hinds County District 2. We will do everything in our power to make absolutely sure folks are held accountable. Mr. Kim Wade from WYAB 103.9.
Ladies and gentlemen, this case is going to turn out to be one of the more consequential cases of election law in Mississippi. As David pointed out about the diversity of people who are concerned about election integrity is represented here. And as was pointed out by the speakers, we see all the laws that are on the books. Then I read where Secretary of State Watson was talking about the new laws that have been put in place. What we really have is just semi-organized chaos. And at the end of the day, they know, those who will be willing to steal elections or engage in any kind of fraudulent behavior, know that they got 10 days to hold out and their fraud will be covered. And so they try to tell you that the ballot is sacrosanct, and the Constitution does say that. Our vote is. What is not sacrosanct is the election certifying date. And yet they act like that's the kicker because they know that's what cover up the crime. So anytime the legislature goes into session and they don't address the 10-day certification window and what can be done, because the people in many cases who are perpetrating the fraud are also the ones who will be certifying the election. This has got to stop. So I commend David Archie and his attorneys and his supporters for taking this stand. All of Mississippi will benefit, regardless of what you think about David L. Archie. This is an important case for everybody who loves freedom.
Yes.
So we just ask that you continue to support this effort and keep your eye on it, because all of Mississippi's freedoms, as it relates to the ballot box, is going to rest on this case, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Fired up. Yes, sir. Fired up and ready to go. And so we will go ahead and take a few questions. Whoever you want to direct that question to, you can. We'll take a few.
obviously trust in elections is a topic of conversation, not just on the county level, but obviously on the national level. And obviously, y'all have laid out the legal aspects of this. When you have a lack of trust in elections, how negative and impactful is that when a person goes in, casts a vote, and they can't even trust that their vote is even being casted?
Mac can address it as well as you, Ms. Omar.
Well, let's think about it. If you don't trust a chair, you're not going to sit in it. If you don't trust the food that you eat, you're not going to eat it.
There you go.
Okay? I mean, if you can't trust that your vote is going to be worth anything, you're not going to get off the couch and go vote. I mean, look, I live up in Tupelo, and Tupelo is not large by comparison to Jackson. But I try to imagine if I were living in Mondrian or somewhere like that, and I needed to go and leave work early and drive to go vote. I've got all this traffic. And then I think to myself, okay, I got to go through 30 minutes of traffic to go sit somewhere and walk in and stand in line and vote. And then if I don't think my vote's going to matter, if I don't think my vote's going to count, then it's not going to be counted, it's going to be thrown away. I'm just going to go home and let other people do it, because if I really don't have a meaningful say in the election, I'm not going to make my voice heard. And we talk about voters being disenfranchised, and we talk about it in the sense of maybe this racial group or this ethnic group or this political group or whatnot. But let me tell you something. If the people who are counting the votes can count whatever votes they want to count,
There you go.
then we're all disenfranchised.
That's right.
And that's why, let me tell you something. And I don't want to step out too much, because I'm here for the lawyer stuff. I'm here for the litigation aspect. But there are some things that need to be addressed, even with the legislature and with the governor. And if Mr. Riggs or any members of the legislature want to give me a call, I'd love to sit down and chat with you and tell you some of the other things that I'm concerned about and we're concerned about. Just go to betteraskmatt.com. That's where y'all can find me. Thank you.
Just a second, we'll get justice here.
I'd like to just speak to that for a moment. Even with this current election, people are reaching out because they lack confidence in their vote. People have asked me, voters, well, I voted early. What's my assurance that my vote is going to count? So here's the direction that I would give. One, I would say, verify, confirm the status, the outcome of your vote. Now that just means that a couple of days after certification, call your circuit clerk. Ask him, what happened? I'm Cynthia Johnson Walker, and did my vote count? Another, on election day, another option, put your tennis shoes on, get your voter ID, go to the poll, stand in line, and attempt to vote. And as soon as you show your name, they're going to say, Cynthia Johnson Walker, you're already voted. That gives you peace of mind. That gives you confidence that your vote showed up in the proper place. But this is just about mishandling of the vote. And that's the current concern. I think it's Ms. Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Ms. Taylor.
Yes, I'd like to answer that question as well, and how people can have confidence in their vote. They can't cheat if it's not close. So if any year we need everybody to show up and this be a landslide and make a statement in Hines County, it's this year, because they can't cheat if it's not close. If everybody shows up, if everybody goes to the poll, we will finally be able to put our voices through as the voter.
Marilyn Hedrick.
You said people are distrustful, and I would encourage them to change that distrust to anger. Get angry that you have elected officials who are manipulating the elections after the fact or during the process. Get angry enough to get involved. Get involved in your party to elect leaders in your party who are ethical and who will run the primaries properly. Get angry enough to elect election commissioners who will ensure an ethical and fair and accurate election process. Get angry enough to do the right thing, and don't be a victim.
I just want to make one statement on that. If you think about Mississippi, we don't have early voting in Mississippi. But what we have in Mississippi is something you call absentee vote, meaning that if you qualify to vote absentee, then you can vote. But this is the issue with absentee voting. You vote first, but your vote is the last vote to be counted. And I think that is totally unfair to the people that made absolutely sure that they went not just to their precinct, but perhaps had to come downtown to vote. And their vote is the last to be counted. And what happens with those votes, we believe, and I believe, that there are many other ballots are counted with their votes because they are commingled at the resolution board. A lot of people don't understand that part of it, but we understand that part of it. We saw it with our own eyes as people walked in with thumb drives, as well as absentee ballots and other ballots. We didn't know. Let me just say this one thing. And this really caught our attention. They was pulling out absentee ballots and did not put that ballot in a machine, but they took another ballot and marked that person's ballot who had voted absentee. We don't know whether or not that vote went to the person that voted, for your candidate, because they had people there taking the ballot, looking at the ballot, the absentee ballot, and then they would mark another ballot and put that ballot inside of the machine. We have videotape of it. We have the evidence that the people need to take this case forward so we can bring attention to these matters. Any other question? We'll get one up.
I got something. Can we just be honest with the people? If we all know that we went online and applied for an SBA loan, millions of dollars were given out, why are we voting with paper or having to go down and push a machine? It seems like the Democrats, the Republicans, and everybody in power want to suppress the vote. The will of the people is put it online. That's what the will of the people is. Because I sat there and watched this disastrous process. And I was ashamed to say, I understand why ain't nobody going to vote. You want to talk about getting angry? I'm angry at everybody who support this kind of system. Put it online, or let's not even talk about fair, because that's not even fair to talk about.
There are many ways with a paper ballot. I understand what you're saying about putting it online.
We had SBA loans.
Correct.
We got millions of dollars. Are we serious right now?
Yes, with paper ballots, you can actually look at a paper ballot in the box